Hello viewers, I have been running a series of English literature, and in today's video I will talk about modernism from 1901 to 1939. Modernism spans from 1901 to 1960 if I'm not wrong. So in today's video we shall only try to discuss modernism from 1901 to 1939, means till the starting of the Second World War. Okay, so here we will try to discuss what kind of English literary works were created during the modernism time period. Rudyard Kipling, he is one of the major figures of modernism, and he has also won a Nobel Prize in Literature for his contribution in English literature. English literary modernism, it developed in the early 20th century out of a general sense of disillusionment with Victorian era attitudes of certainty, conservatism, and belief in the idea of objective truth. The movement was influenced by the ideas of Charles Darwin. So if you don't know about him, please go through his biography and works. Ernst Mach, Henry Bergson, Friedrich Nietzsche. You have to know about Friedrich Nietzsche. Please go through James G. Fraser, Karl Marx. He is one of the greatest figure of the modernism. Please go to his work. He has also written Das Kapital in the year 1867, and he is also the founder of Marxism and the psychoanalytic theories of Sigmund Freud. You should also know about Sigmund Freud, and please go to his lifeline and his works, among others. The continental art movements of Impressionism and later Cubism were also important in the modernism age. Important literary precursors of modernism were Fyodor Dostoevsky, Walt Whitman, Charles Baudelaire, Rimbaud, August Strindberg. So whatever the name I have read and whatever the name you have seen on the screen, please go through about their biography and the literary works they have produced. A major British lyric poet of the first decades of the 20th century was Thomas Hardy. You have to know about his biography and work. Please go through it. Though not a modernist, Hardy was an important transitional figure between the Victorian era and the 20th century. A major novelist of the late 19th century, Hardy had lived well into the third decade of the 20th century, though he only published poetry in this period. Another significant transitional figure between Victorians and modernists, the late 19th century novelist Henry James. You have to know about him. He has written many remarkable works. Please go through about his lifetime, about his literary works and his biography. And it continued to publish major novels into the 20th century, including The Golden Bowl and Polish-born modernist novelist Joseph Conrad. You have to know about him. Please go through it. He had also published his first important works, Heart of Darkness, that you might have read in your degree. If you have not, then you will get it in your postgraduate degree in 1899, and Lord Jim in 1900. However, the Victorian Gerald Manley Hopkins, J.M. Hopkins, he is also a highly original poetry. He has also created highly original poetry, but was not published until 1918, long after his death. While the career of another major modernist poet was Irishman W.B. Yeats. You have to know about him. Please go through his works and his biography. William Butler Yeats, he began late in the Victorian era, and Yeats was one of the foremost figures of 20th century English literature. But while modernism was to become an important literary movement in the early decades of the new century, there were also many fine writers who, like Thomas Hardy, were not modernist. During the early decades of the 20th century, the Georgian poets like Rupert Brooke and Walter de la Mare, they maintained a conservative approach to poetry by combining romanticism, sentimentality, and hedonism. And another Georgian poet was Edward Thomas. He is one of the first World War poets, along with Wilfred Owen, Rupert Brooke, and Isaac Rosenberg, and Siegfried Siessen. So you have to know about First World War poets, and please go through them in detail. It will come in your various entrance exam related to English literature and net and SLET. Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw, J.M. Symonds, and Sean O'Casey were influential in British drama. So you have to know about their work and how it had impacted English drama and literature worldwide. And Shaw's career began in the last decade of the 19th century, while Synge's plays belong to the first decade of the 20th century. Synge's most famous play, The Playboy of the Western World, it caused outrage and riots when it was first premiered in Ireland's Dublin in 1907. George Bernard Shaw turned the Edwardian theatre into an arena of debate about important political and social issues. Then novelists who are not considered modernists include H.G. Wells, John Galsworthy, who had also won Nobel Prize in Literature, whose work include the Forestry Saga and E.M. Forster's works, though Forster's work is frequently regarded as containing both modernist and Victorian elements. So you have to know about their works. Please go through. Then Forster's most famous work, A Passage to India, that was published in 1924. It reflected challenges to imperialism, while his earlier novels examined the restriction and hypocrisy of Edwardian society in England. The most popular British writer of the early years of 20th century was arguably Rudyard Kipling. Please go to his biography and literary works. He is a highly versatile writer of novels, short stories, and poems. Then another famous name, it comes W.B. Yeats. He is another important early modernist poet whose works were influence figure like American-born poet T.S. Eliot. And you have to know Eliot, what kind of works he has done and what kind of impact he has had. So without knowing him, your modernism will never be fulfilled. And T.S. Eliot, Thomas Stern Eliot, he became a British citizen in 1927, but he was born and educated in America. His famous works include Proof Rock, that was published in 1915, The Wasteland 1922, and Four Quarters 1935 to 42. Then amongst the novelists after Joseph Conrad, other important early modernists include Dorothy Richardson, whose novel Pointed Roof is one of the earliest examples of the stream of consciousness. So if you don't know about stream of consciousness, please go through it in detail. Questions come from this section. And D.S. Lawrence, You have to know about his work too. Please go through. Who published The Rainbow in 1915, though it was immediately seized by the police, and Women in Love in 1920. Then in 1922, Irishman James Joyce, important modernist novel Ulysses appeared. Ulysses has been called the demonstration and summation of entire movement. Then this is the man James Joyce, the part two of modernism from 1929 to 1939. Here we will talk. The modernist movement continued through the 1920s, 1930s, and beyond. Here, Virginia Woolf is another famous personality, literature of the modernist period. Important British writers between the world wars include the Scottish poet Hugh MacDiarmid, and who began publishing in the 1920s, and novelist Virginia Woolf. If you don't know about her works, you have to know. You must know. Please go through it. Many questions were asked in the exams related to Virginia Woolf, who was an influential feminist and a major stylistic innovator associated with the stream of consciousness technique in novels like Mrs. Dalloway, that was published in 1995, and To the Lighthouse, 1927. Then T.S. Eliot, he had also begun this attempt to revive poetic drama with Sweeney Agonistes in 1932, and this was followed by others, including three further plays after the war. In parenthesis, a modernist epic poem based on author David Jones. It was also an experience of World War I, and it was published in 1937. Then an important development beginning in the 1930s and 1940s was a tradition of working class novels, actually written by working class background writers. Among these were coal miner Jack Jones, James Henley, whose father was a stoker and who also went to sea as a young man, and coal miners Lewis Jones from South Wales and Harold Heslop from County Durham. So you have to know about them to please go to the literary work or whatever I have said here. You have to do your own research. Then Aldous Huxley, he has also published his famous dystopia Brave New World in 1932. Please go through it. The same year, John Cowper published a Glastonbury romance. It was also published. Please go through it. Then Samuel Beckett, he is another major figure in this age. You have to know every work written by him and what kind of impact he had in modernist age. Please go through it. Samuel Beckett, he was born in 1906 and died in 1999. He had published his first major work, the novel Murphy, in 1938. The same year, Graham Greene's 1904, 1991 first major novel, Brington Rock, was published. Then in 1939, James Joyce has published Finnegan's Wake, in which he creates a special language to express the consciousness of a dreaming character. Then another character, another figure we have already talked, W.H., and another British poet, W.H. Auden. He is also a significant modernist in the 1930s. You have to know about his poetry. Please go through his life and literary work. Then in our next video, we will try to know about postmodernism from 1940 to 2000. Okay, thank you so much.